Welcome back to Real Talk with Susan Stone and Kristina Supler. We are full-time moms and attorneys bringing our student defense legal practice to life with real, candid conversation.
Oh, nice to see you on this dreary, rainy day.
Indeed it is.
It is. But we're going to talk about something that's actually good to do on a rainy day.
Ooh, tell me more. What could that be?
Cuddling.
Who doesn't love cuddling?
Oh my gosh, you know what? I'm mourning the fact that my youngest is about to go to college, and we talked about this on prior podcasts. But do you remember? Well, you still have younger kids, but there's
My kids love to cuddle.
Yeah, there's nothing like that cuddling of a little kid, especially on a rainy morning.
Couldn't agree more.
Oh, I love it.
Why are we talking about cuddling today, Susan? Where are we going with this?
Well, we're going to get there because, as you know, nobody sees us and things until something goes wrong. And what is that saying? Everything's fine till somebody gets poked in the eye. Do you remember that saying?
Yes.
Well, we're going to talk about cuddling going wrong. But first, let's just talk about why do we cuddle? I mean, I was doing a little research on cuddling, and did you know that cuddling produces oxytocin and basically makes you feel good and safe?
Well, that's interesting because I suppose, and you know, you're the special ed whiz, if you will. Could one argue that cuddling is kind of like a form of OT in a way, occupational therapy, or stimulating you in some way?
Well, we know it improves sleep.
Mm-hmm.
There are some studies out there that said it actually boosts the immune system, and it, believe it or not, lowers blood pressure. That's crazy, isn't it?
Now that I didn't see that one coming. I'm just thinking about like some of our little kids and people with sensitivities to touch, and touch can be a good thing and also maybe something that can be triggering.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would say that in early childhood, cuddling definitely leads to attachment parenting. You really form bonds.
Well, that like when you first have your baby and they want to put the baby on your chest for the, what is that, kangaroo care? What's it called?
I think it's kangaroo care. It's been a minute for me.
Since I've had a baby.
Yeah, but I think your point is well taken, that some children actually are averse to touch and don't like that feeling, but most people do. And a little simple hug or cuddle is wonderful for parents, and I'm a big fan of parents being physically affectionate with children. But
there's always a but.
There's always a but. We're not here to talk about parents snuggling their babies.
I think part of our podcast, it's funny, every episode there's sort of a theme of in reality things that are nice most of the time, innocent, sure, and then put them on a college campus in the Title IX world, and of course there's always room for things to go wrong. So are we talking about cuddling in the context of Title IX today?
We are, because one person's innocent, platonic, asexual cuddling can be another person's prelude to a hookup.
Indeed. And that actually makes me think over the years, we've had quite a few cases that are sort of rooted in, I don't know, cuddling gone wrong, if you will. Though I think it probably depends on who you ask, right?
Yeah, well, I just learned that there is a definitional difference between cuddling and snuggling.
Oh, now this is totally new to me. Tell me more. I'm very interested.
Okay. I read by Rabbi Google, the go-to source for all things.
When you're done, I'm going to tell you something that I just came across on Rabbi Google.
Okay, good. So cuddling is arms around someone, and snuggling is rubbing up and wiggling against a person.
Okay, that makes sense.
It does?
Yeah.
How do you think it makes sense, Supler?
Because snuggling, it makes me think about like getting cozy and like under a blanket and you're sort of, I don't know, inching up and just like being warm. And as I'm saying this, I'm realizing I don't know. It just makes sense to me that one's different.
Well, so maybe we're not here really to talk about cuddling. Maybe we're here to talk about snuggling. When that goes wrong.
Perhaps. But you reminded me actually not too long ago, I saw this headline about how in Manhattan, because of course you can find anything in Manhattan, there are actually
the Big Apple.
professional cuddling services where people charge $150 an hour to cuddle in a platonic way because people are seeking out like that touch therapy thing, which made me think of the OT question I asked you earlier. How about that, though? Truly, anything you want can be found in New York.
It can be. But let's go back, and that's interesting-ish, maybe kind of creepy. I don't know how I feel about it. But let's go back to college, because in college, there are people who like to have what they call cuddle buddies. Buddies.
Sure, and I think that from the perspective of Title IX, how can things go wrong? I mean, it's really, in essence, any sort of touching or physical contact, if it's unwelcome, could perhaps give rise to a claim for sexual harassment.
So let's set the stage for our listeners. It's late. You've already gone out. The bars have closed. So it's what, 2 a.m.?
Sure. I guess it depends what state you're in, but I think 2 a.m. is a reasonable time.
Okay. And you know nothing good happens at 2 a.m.
Nothing.
So it's 2 a.m. and you decide to watch a little Netflix and chill for your evening out. Maybe you've had a beer or 2 or 10 and you decide to cuddle. And accidentally, you might even fall asleep or not. And the cuddling to one person, they're tired, they want to go to sleep. But to the other person, they get aroused. Dun, dun, dun.
Sure. I mean, I think one could argue that is a natural consequence of cuddling.
And a hand might wander.
It's possible.
And a hand might wander without consent.
Indeed.
And there's your Title IX.
Yeah, I mean, at the heart of the Title IX analysis is the issue of unwelcomeness. And then also, a conversation, it makes me think conversations we often have with our students of any age is sort of impact versus intent. But I didn't mean for anything, to be upsetting or offensive. But it was received that way by someone else. And so what do you do with that? And that's really, in essence, what all of our Title IX cases are about. Because I don't think anyone ever says, oh, I intentionally did X, Y, Z to hurt someone. It's always, I didn't mean to, or something was misunderstood or misconstrued. And then you have the consequences of whatever the circumstance was. And that's often what we're navigating through is sort of the gray.
Well, because the definition of consent can be words or actions. And so what is an action? I thought we were cuddling. I thought we were getting closer. I thought you also were romantically interested in me. And so I thought it was a natural move on my part to move my hand. And the other person's thinking, wait, you didn't even talk to me. But that's not the definition of consent. It's words or actions. And I think that's where the confusion comes from.
Well, and I'm going to say this, that, sort of a prevailing viewpoint might be that, well, come on, please. Everyone knows that cuddling is just sort of a gateway to a hookup. How would you respond to that?
I don't even think that's true, because as we started our whole podcast, parents cuddle children. But as we have worked our way through this issue, I think the confusion comes from the difference between cuddling and snuggling. And I think that college students don't spend enough time as they're creating these cuddle buddies to determine, is it truly platonic? How do you know that you might feel platonic and the other person might actually have feelings, and the cuddling or snuggling enhances those feelings?
So I hear you, but then I guess let me ask you this. It sort of circles back to what I very inartfully tried to define before, the difference between cuddling and snuggling. If you're snuggling, how would you define the two? Because if you're saying one is more, it sounds like you're saying one is okay and one can be problematic. I mean, you try to define the difference.
Well, I like the definition I gave you. And first of all, both are okay as long as everybody's on the same page.
Right. Consent.
But consent. It always comes down to consent. I don't think that snuggling is appropriate without conversation.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not appropriate in many, many contexts. It is to me, a boundary violation to rub your body against someone without a conversation.
Agree. There needs to be a conversation. And, that makes me think as well that, certainly, as you've pointed out correctly, most school policies indicates consent, in Title IX world, requires it can be given through words or actions. But I think, let's put our lawyer hat on, from a best practices perspective, we really do encourage all of our students. And when we talk, we sort of make the point that the safest way forward is to have a clear, explicit conversation. Are you okay if we, fill in the blank, whatever it is, to just have a clear understanding of what the boundary is, what a person is okay with and perhaps not okay with.
Let's get a little embarrassing here, can we?
Sure.
Sometimes the body does what the body wants to do, even if your mind says something different.
You're talking about involuntary
erections?
Sure.
Okay. Now, I do not have a penis. I am a female.
Hmm.
But the penis is going to do what the penis wants to do, Supler.
Tell me more. Where are we going with this?
I can envision a scenario where there is cuddling or snuggling and a male gets a hard-on. It could happen easily.
It could happen.
And that's really embarrassing. What should the guy do? I feel like I'm Howard Stern talking about this. Really? Well, what should happen?
I mean, it can be embarrassing for the male. It could be whoever is the other person participating in the cuddling.
Male or female.
Male or female. It can make that person, they might like it, but also it can make them feel really, really uncomfortable. And then what do you do?
I don't know. Should the person with the erection just get out of bed and go into the bathroom? I don't know.
I don't know either. And I feel like to really delve into this topic, we need the male perspective because we're both females. But
well, I'm married. We're married. We get this.
Yeah.
We both have raised sons.
So the question is,
not that I've talked about this with my son. Everyone out there, I want to clarify. I have never discussed this topic with my child.
So the question is, could that be a Title IX violation?
It could be in today's crazy world, but how unfair is that?
I totally agree. And I think that, it sort of gets back to this issue of the importance of students having.
How about self-awareness?
Self-awareness, but also the ability to, and we talk about this all the time, the ability to have difficult conversations. Like, this is awkward. This would be totally awkward to talk about with someone you don't even really know that well, but like, hey, I don't like that. I'm going to go. Or, I mean, because I think the worst way to handle it is everyone's awkward and uncomfortable and there's no conversation. And then for days, the interaction is being dissected and analyzed, and then outside voices sort of filter in, and the narrative gets rewritten about what happens.
I'm going to challenge you on something.
Okay, please do.
You're a big fan, as am I, on conversation.
I am. I'm a talker.
You're a talker, but you know what? Some things you need a little self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, and everyone, I would love for you to respond, send us your comments. I want to know what you think out there. But if you're really into someone and you secretly like them, can you platonically cuddle? I put that out there. I say no.
I don't think you can either. That's actually, I agree. I don't think you can. I think it's inevitable where it's going to end up. But are you, so let me ask you.
Don't cuddle without talking to the person and saying, hey, or maybe this is where the conversation comes in. I don't think I can do that. I don't think I can get in bed with you. And let's face it, how big are college beds?
I mean, aren't they like extra long singles?
Twins, right? Twinsies.
Yeah. I remember going to Bed With Me On and buying extra long sheets because like that's what you needed for some reason.
Yeah, you still need those extra long sheets. But what I'm saying is I don't see how someone can platonically cuddle. And if you're male, not get erect. Or how about this? A woman. We females get aroused too.
I've been told.
I heard from a friend. That's not a natural place to put yourself if you want to remain platonic. So I say a little self-awareness goes a long way.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think also, though, there's...
What do you mean you don't know? That's ridiculous. You do know. If you like someone, don't hop in the old bed with them without thinking that, the juices are going to flow.
How about this? Cuddle or no cuddle? You're alone with someone at 2:00 in the morning watching TV. Like, come on. I mean, I think that too, it could sort of be a situation where if we're really talking about self-awareness, I don't think it's limited to cuddling. I think it should be, sort of broad into just being mindful of the situations in which we find ourselves. If you have a crush on someone and you just want to watch, I don't know, a show together on Netflix at 2:00 in the morning, one could argue that that's sort of also a recipe to test limits and see where things go.
Drunk or not drunk?
Ooh, good variable. Well, let's say both, right? Because, I mean, either way, alcohol, we've had plenty of cases that are, cuddling, touching gone wrong with no alcohol involved. I mean, it's not, let's face it, alcohol is involved in many, if not most of our cases, but certainly not all. Certainly not all.
You know what else could happen as I'm thinking about this? You could be thinking that you really are just friends, but sometimes you awake the dragon.
I mean,
feelings happen.
Feelings do happen, but there's a difference between feelings happening and then, like, I don't know. I just struggle with the idea of, and maybe I'm being too, I don't know, traditional in my views, but like platonic cuddling between a male and a female at 2:00 in the morning, I don't know that it's possible. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I also wonder about those New York cuddlers. Do they really just cuddle?
Well, I mean, according to the news article, yes. But I mean, I'm with you in that I'm very circumspect. And then I also just wonder about germs and whatnot. But supposedly there's like good sanitation measures in place.
Oh, we're getting so far off. Oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed for ourselves. But look, there's a lot of health benefits to cuddling, and you can feel lonely in college. And there's nothing wrong when the terms are clear. Yes, I will follow Supler's ideas. Conversation's key. It can be a really nice way of connecting, forging bonds, getting good sleep, lowering your blood pressure and boosting your immunity, as long as everybody stays on the same page. I just worry for those little accidental erections and things that might go bump in the night accidentally.
Accidental erections. Okay. Well, hopefully we've given our listeners some food for thought today. This was just sort of a fun and lighthearted discussion. But I mean, in all seriousness, we do see plenty of matters that, involve components of cuddling and miscommunication.
Yeah. And it's not funny when you have a Title IX case. It's embarrassing. Our clients who come into our office or we Zoom in with, they're mortified. It's awful. It's just awful.
It's awful for everyone involved. And
it's awful for the recipient who thinks that way.
That's what I was going to say. It's awful as well for the person who maybe dozed off and then they wake up and are like, whoa, what's going on? So, I mean, again, I think that,
no one wins.
No one wins.
Or everyone wins, depending on what happens, right?
Well, and should colleges really be in the mix of parsing through these scenarios? I'm not sure about that one, but under the regs, under the current Title IX regulations,
under policies,
they are. And so it is an issue that Title IX offices across the country are navigating. And so, bottom line, parents out there, listeners, these two are topics to, put on your students' radar.
Yeah, talk about cuddling versus snuggling. Stay connected if you would like. We'd love to hear from you and see what you think. And let's keep the conversation going.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Real Talk with Susan and Kristina. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our show so you never miss an episode. And leave us a review so other people can find the content we share here. You can follow us on Instagram. Just search our handle @StoneSupler. And for more resources, visit us online at studentdefense.kjk.com. Thank you so much for being a part of our Real Talk community. We'll see you next time.